So today we're talking about getting your care sequences into the flow of a journey. Now this is a process rather than a series of events. So it's often frustrating, isn't it, when as a chiropractor you do a great job of the first visit, there's no stone unturned. You know, you go really deep and they're like, wow, this is incredible. We give them a ripper report of findings and the new person's just saying yes, 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 because actually they're saying yes because that's once you get started and get them out of pain. But then they drop out of care when the pain goes, or at most they don't opt for regenerative care. If they do accept regenerative care, they often drop out with some excuse, money or time, whatever, in the next few weeks. Whereas as a chiropractor, most of us want to give our practice members the best and ideally for a lifetime. So most chiropractors want their recommendations to be respected and accepted, and most chiropractors want people to have what's best for them, and chiropractic is certainly a part of that. Right, this is a model called the journey model, and it's a metaphor for our life's journey from conception to the resurrection, right? So we've got certain things that occur along the way, and when they come in and see us at a certain point here, it's often when something's going wrong, something's hurting, something's sick, and it could be at any one of these intervals down through into here where they seek assistance. And within the current system, you wait till you get really bad before you really do something much about it. So obviously we're encouraging people to get checked and adjusted right at the very beginning throughout pregnancy and then beyond, but that's not always the case. So within that then we've got an understanding that everything that's occurred before comes in the form of various stressors, and there is a certain resistance that fights back against those stressors. So, and sometimes when the stressors exceed the resistance, then obviously there's going to be some issues that the body has to deal with, and it compensates, and subluxation is part of that. So this is the model, if you like, of a progressive thing. It's not a series of events, even though most people treat it like that. They treat it as these little events going on through here, and they're seeing more and more specialized people as they get closer to death. And not a very, very useful way to live one's life. And the chiropractic offering obviously is very different to that. But they still have the same sort of headspace around this, and many chiropractors do too, that this person's come in for, this person is the person with name the problem. And so what we'll look at here is how can we allow people to ascend? How can we allow people to move up in this direction? Now, for the most part, the first phase of care, if we just uncover this here so it's nice and clean, the first phase of care is not that different from relief care. So classically they get relief until they're out of symptoms, and then they'll wait until something else goes wrong. And the initial phase of chiropractic care is just to get not only relief but also stabilization. So that's a bit of a no-brainer. The person will say yes at this juncture just to be rid of whatever is bugging them. The challenge here comes in this next phase, where the body does have a great ability to regenerate. It's an amazing capacity there. Obviously it is limited by time and by matter, but there is a lot of shift that can take place here, but it takes a different mindset. It takes a position of the person understanding firstly the journey, that they are on a journey, and that things have got to a certain point, and that this point of recovery, or so-called recovery, isn't necessarily the end of the road and that's all that can be done. A lot of people do just take that and say, okay, I'm going to do maintenance care. And this maintenance is essentially designed to prevent the same level of putrefaction coming up again. Is to allow an avoidance of symptoms, and it has some validity. It's certainly better than leaving it till it's we're back down here again. But at the same time, maintenance care is not necessarily that useful. So our challenge with people is to allow them to recognise that they're at a point where the continuation of this journey is possible, and it can't be done with a big event. If we're leaving that event to today's the day where we do the examination for eligibility for out of stabilisation care into regenerative care, that becomes problematic because it's a huge impost away from the person's ingrained understanding of why healthcare exists and what healthcare is geared to do. So there is a number of steps. So if we look at it as a journey, there's a number of steps there along the phases. So this process through stabilisation care is critical for planting the seeds for regenerative care. And so if we just set and forget from the day we start adjusting a person, be it 20, 30, 40, 50 visits, whatever it is, up through these layers here, we lose so much opportunity, because then we need to have a major event to set the person in the direction of regenerative care. So we don't want that. What we want here is to have an opportunity for our working with a person in the stages as they're going through every single visit, because every visit is different. Every visit is a unique opportunity, and in fact a unique situation. Every visit is, in fact, within the visit is different. When you put an adjustment into someone, that change, the whole system changes and adapts and goes to a new level. So the next second after that adjustment you're checking and adjusting, or checking and analysing, that person's going to be in a different position. They're going to be different, a different person essentially. So that gives a great opportunity then to start to frame a reference point for the past. So we look at the past here. What we're going to do is recognise along the way that these things have been happening, and that if they can be aware of the incidents and the awareness of the impact that these micro traumas had on where they are down here and where they want to go, then they start to get a greater appreciation of it. So they start to say, okay, I get that there's a relationship between my past and my future and my present, and that if I'm going to assume a different future, then it's going to take time. And this is one of the key elements that we want the person to get in this first phase of care. If they can get that things take time, which is the sixth principle of chiropractic, then that becomes a really strong driver for them. If they're committed to time, yeah, sure, I understand this is going to take time, and this is something that we make sure that on visit to visit to visit, we give people a glimpse of what's happening, or get them to be the observer of what's happening. So we're not telling them what's happening. We're watching them as they become better at observation. We're watching them as they start to create a new perception, a new awareness, and it must be, it could be minor things like the quality of their sleep, the quickness of their thought, their breathing, their cadence, their skin color, things like that. Real things that are significant from our position, but really for they never sort of track on that sort of stuff. So when they do, then that becomes a marker for them, and it's not symptomatic. It's a physiological marker. So as their perception changes, then their narrative changes. And so we're really in the work of rebuilding people's narrative, allowing them to have a different viewpoint, work from a different ladder, have a different categorization of what it is to be healthy and what it is to be sick and what it is to be optimized and so forth. And with that then, as long as they've bought into the concept that time is necessary for these transformations to take place, when it comes to the report of findings for the next stage, it's a no-brainer. Now, as people notice and become more aware that the next step is just one in a series of steps, it's not the big event. And so with that then, their process towards that re-exam, which I would hope we're actually getting them to do it on a regular basis every single visit. They're starting to notice more and more. They're starting to put together a different narrative that allows them to understand at a higher level what the next stage is about. And it's just a metaphor, and we keep bringing this back to them that hey, this is just a metaphor. It's just a way of expressing ourselves in the world. It's not true. It's simply a map. So with that then, they understand that they're on a series of next steps. There's no big alpha and omega here. It is a process. It's a journey. So when we then take the series of visits as a linked process, we have the opportunity to dance with that person, and for them and for us, the progressive report just becomes another step in the process, and the exam fades into insignificance because they're aware of the changes that have been happening. So sure, we do the measurements again, do the EMGs and thermos and all the rest of it, because it's once again a confirmation of the shift. And so whether you're doing that every 12 visits, whether you're doing it every 24 or 36, you've got your own process for that, but those aren't what make the difference. They're a confirmation, but the thing that makes the difference is that person's understanding and the way that they're seeing the world, the narrative that they're starting to buy into, and that is the chiropractic thing. It's like above, down, inside out, and this incredible wisdom within is starting to express more and more. And sure, the symptoms may still be there, and they start to reframe that the symptoms are a necessary thing for right now, because it's got them into this office. It's got them to where they now have a huge understanding of the distinctions, and they're in a growing phase. So it's not like symptoms are good or bad to be kept away from. They're started to be embraced as a part of the innate expression too. So it's really, really cool to see this collaboration that starts to take place, and they trust their inner knowing, and that they understand at a deeper level that chiropractic is something for them. It's rational, it works, and why would they stop? That's really, when you get to the report of findings, the progressive report of findings, it's like, well, why would I stop? So then if you just ask them that question and say, well, okay, we started over here, we're now here, where would you like to go? Well, that's a no-brainer. I've got so far now, I'm going to continue. And regardless of what the frequency and the duration of that care is, there is a drive for that person to go for what it is that they now know to be valuable for them. So, this is a distinction between making a big event of it and putting in little thoughts along the way every single visit, multiple times every visit, for them to make the observation, to have a greater appreciation of the expression of life within them and the ability of their body. And they learn to trust their body to a much higher level than they ever had. They've always had their trust on outside things such as doctors or chiropractors or whatever. And now they start to trust their bodies and trust their inner self and trust their judgment. So they will make the right decisions for them. So, this is a very gentle, it's an effective, easy way to bring about shift within a person that allows them to make better choices for themselves going forward. So If you want to get more of your practice members enjoying the ride at a higher level of the journey, then jump on a clarity call with us and we can engage you in this process. So until next time, I'm Mark Postles. Cheers.